Today on Rescue 911. One more for the road. Driving under the influence.
I checked the driver real quick, and he was obviously dead.
Turns a truck into a loaded weapon.
When I opened the door, beer can rolled down over the pavement.
Plus,
Mom, where are you?
terror surrounds a 5-year-old home alone.
I just got home from school and my mom's here.
On Rescue 911.
We begin in Lafayette, Ohio on January 28, 1992. As Paul Prater left his home that night, he never considered how one decision he would make for himself would affect so many other lives.
One afternoon, a couple of my friends stopped by. We started drinking, talking over old times. I suppose we stayed around there 2 or 3 hours. I was going to go see a lady friend of mine, and we was going to watch movies and eat pizza that evening. It didn't cross my mind whether I was able to drive or not. I remember going around the peak of the hill. After that, I don't recall anything until waking up in the trauma unit.
I could say this was a tremendous impact. I felt when I got out of the vehicle there were going to be serious injuries in this accident, if not fatalities.
Can you hear me? Have you ever said this about the neck tagged up with? I got this.
Around 8:45 p.m., Coshocton County Sheriff's Deputy John Mosier had just gotten off duty and was on his way home, driving down a lonely stretch of road in rural Ohio.
Morning, Coshocton. I just drove upon Max.
I could say this was a tremendous impact. I felt when I got out of the vehicle there were going to be serious injuries in this accident, if not fatalities.
Sir, can you hear me?
I went up to the large pickup. The driver was laying across the seat, making noise and moving somewhat.
I'll be back with you in just a second.
I went up to the driver of the small pickup
Can you hear me at all, sir? Can you hear me?
and checked his vital signs for breathing or pulse and could find neither. The passenger that was moaning and groaning.
Ma'am, can you hear me? Yeah, I'm Deputy Sheriff. I'm here to help you.
I'm not sure that she understood really what was going on. She had serious facial injuries and her legs were entangled in the metal and plastic of the dash.
Or to Coshocton had one.
She was in tremendous pain and there was just nothing I could do to give her any assistance.
Yeah, ma'am, as quick as possible.
I thought there was a good possibility that she would also die.
I got one more day. Get in there.
The impact had compressed the cab of the small truck. No matter how hard we tried, we couldn't get the door to open.
Coshocton County EMS paramedic Randy Curtis was first called over to help the passenger in the small pickup truck.
How you doing? Can you hear me talking to you?
She was gurgling a lot on her own blood. I stabilized her neck and opened her airways so she'd be able to breathe on her own.
Want to take C-spine for me?
I checked the driver real quick, and he was obviously dead. The steering wheel probably got him in the chest, and he died on impact more than likely. Neither of them had their seatbelts on. It's always hard to say what if, but chances are seatbelts are going to help you. She had real severe head injuries, and she had chest injuries. had patients before who have ended up dying in hospital or dying there on scene from injuries like this. When the patient's this critical, you just never know.
Okay, take it easy. Take it easy.
It appeared that alcohol had been used by the driver of the large pickup. When I opened the door, beer cans rolled out onto the pavement.
Well, we're gonna need a ceasefire.
He was conscious. He had some injuries. They didn't appear to be as severe as the people in the other vehicle.
Skymed helicopter flight nurse Mary Ellen Morton arrived and began treating the female victim.
And once we laid her on the board, it became just massive amounts of blood coming from these facial lacerations and fractures.
Put it into a tray for 2 minutes. Patricia, take
She was disoriented and would not cooperate, and I suspected immediately she had a major brain injury. There was open fractures to both of the long bones in her legs, and in order just to maintain any kind of blood pressure on her, we had to give a lot of fluids.
Close cut off, get the mask pants on.
I felt her injuries were so serious that she could have died at any moment. Most of the time, when we're involved in accident scenes, drinking and driving has something to do with it. And the effects are devastating.
35-year-old Patricia Johnson was taken to Ohio State University Medical Center, where a trauma team was standing by, including orthopedic surgeon Robert Austrin.
Anytime someone's killed in a car accident, we're very concerned because that means there's serious injuries to the person that survived that car accident.
Okay, let's see what we got.
Is all the fluid on the
Got a large opening on that.
She had 2 massive wounds in her left leg.
Got a fracture on this side too, okay. All right, x-ray. Good.
Her hip joint on the left side was shattered. She lost 3 inches of bone from her thigh bone on the left, and the thigh bone on the right was also broken.
Okay, let's make arrangements for her to go to the OR somewhere.
I was upset to see such severe injuries in a patient and to find out a drunk driver had caused these injuries.
Patricia underwent more than 10 hours of surgery, but remained in a coma. Her husband, David, and her parents, Betty and George Fries, were not able to see her until the next day.
It's unbelievable. I wanted to just tell her how much I loved her. Just please wake up.
Well, that was tough seeing her that way. I just figured she was gone. I'd never get her back home.
At the time of the incident, the driver of the other truck's blood alcohol level was 2.5 times the legal limit. He had 4 prior convictions for driving under the influence.
When I learned that a drunk driver had killed David and hurt Patricia, I was very angry. I had so much hate. If I could have got rid of him, I would probably tried to kill him.
Patricia did not come out of the coma for a week and spent 2 months in the hospital. For the past 1.5 years, she's been undergoing painful physical therapy.
Come on. It hurts when I go down.
I got to get 2 hip replacements. I had 3 inches of bone torn out of my leg. Now I'm kind of short-legged on my left leg. I'm blind in my left eye. And the pain, I'll always have the pain.
2 years after the accident, Patricia is still trying to come to grips with the death of family friend David Marlatt.
It was hard for me to find out David was killed. He was a close friend. He took my dad and me fishing all the time.
David was a heck of a nice guy. He's one of the best guys I ever known. I don't know, it just seemed like I just don't care for fishing much anymore since he's been gone. If I could just take some of their pain and their grief and make it easier, I would do anything possible, but there's much I can do.
Driver Paul Prater is serving a 6.5 to 15-year sentence in prison and has had his license revoked permanently.
It was hard to accept that I took a life. I would go to bed with it, I woke up with it. I wanted to write Patricia a letter to find out how she was getting along in a recovery.
And probably a week later, I received a letter from her. She told me what it was like at home, how hard it was living out of a wheelchair. And I knew that I was the cause of this whole thing.
Paul now speaks to high school students in hopes that others can learn from his mistakes.
Believe me, this is not what I had in mind for my future. When I look around, I have to wonder how many of you out there will be wearing these because you thought, like I thought, this can't happen to me. I've got control over my life.
Recently, Patricia also began attending to try to share her suffering and her loss.
I can't say enough about the pain that I put these families through. I look at the eyes and hope someone's listening to my story and how easy it is to get in a place like this, how easy it is to destroy lives and destroy families.
After an event on October 12, 1994, Patricia and Paul spoke privately for the first time.
We wrote quite a few letters. She must be one special person to be able to accept what's happened and still correspond with me, tell me her feelings, and want to know my feelings. Something I've been wanting to say for a long time is thank you very much for responding to my first letter. That means a lot to me. I mean, that putting myself in your place, I don't know if I could be that strong.
I just want you to know that I forgive you for what you've done. At times I do hate you for what you've done. I wouldn't wish my accident on my worst enemy. And if my story could just help one person not drink and drive, I'd be really thankful.
I took the life of someone and seriously injured someone else. It took a split second to cross that line and change so many lives. My advice to anybody that's drinking and driving, you better beware. The consequences of that could end you in a place like I am.
Next.
I wanted her to stay with me on the phone. I felt that she could be in a lot more danger.
Get the right part.
Click code perfect.
Her mom. Most days when kindergarten class lets out, 5-year-old Amanda Shook of Owasso, Michigan rides a school bus a few miles to another school much closer to her home, where her mom picks her up. But neither Amanda nor her parents, Andrea and Joe Shook, were prepared for what happened on the afternoon of January 15th, 1993.
Mom, are you up there? Mom, where are you?
Emergency 911.
I just got home from school. And my mom came right here.
Okay.
Shiawassee County Dispatcher Michelle Spencer took the call.
She didn't do it on purpose. She probably came to the field for right
I can remember hearing this little voice, and it was so shaky. I had to find out why she was there. And I had to find out if I couldn't help her somehow feel safer.
Did your mom leave you a note or anything? No. Okay, do you have any idea where she might go? No, she probably went to your school. Oh, you think she's there looking for you? Yes. Okay. What school do you go to, Amanda? The Bentley School? Do you go to school all day? I don't know how much hours work. If we stay there, probably just hours. Oh. Do you usually come home for lunch, Amanda? Yes, and I'm hungry too. Well, you're hungry too? Are you inside your house? Yeah.
The other dispatcher on duty that day was Judy Voorhees.
I called the school, and they were very cooperative, went out and tried to see if we could locate the mother, see if she was sitting out there waiting for Amanda, but they had no luck. They couldn't find her car.
Is the police there? Yeah, you're talking to the police. That's me. Okay. Is there anyone?
I did talk with someone that knew the Shook family, so she gave me the information of where Dad worked.
Do you have any brothers and sisters? Yes. You do? Two brothers. You have brothers? I don't have any sisters.
I did call her father, but he was gone to lunch. So I left a message and told him I needed to speak with him. It was very important.
Is your daddy's first name Joe? Yeah. Is it? Okay. Well, because that's what 911 tells us. Tells us what your daddy's name is.
I wanted her to stay where I knew she'd be okay. I felt that she could be in a lot more danger if she left that house and went searching for her mom.
So you just stay with me so I know you're okay. I'm okay, but I'm worried. Yeah, I know it is scary sometimes, but that's okay. You did the right thing. Did they teach you how to use 911 at school? No, I just learned in my mind. Oh, good. Do you have a grandma and grandpa in town? Yeah. Do they know their number? Oh, okay. Okay, do you know their name? Yeah, I have one grandpa. He died, and the other one, he's not real, my grandpa. I don't know what to do. Well, just hold on, because I think I have your daddy on another phone. Your daddy? Yeah.
Her father called me back just a few minutes later, and he was very concerned.
So you're not scared anymore?
I was quite flabbergasted because we had never put her in that type of predicament. And I could just imagine the fear that she must be feeling at the time.
What is he going to do? Oh, I don't think he's going to do anything. I just think he wants to make sure you're not scared. When is he going to be here? Well, we're gonna find out so that you'll know. And I'll just stay right on the phone with you until he gets there. Would that be okay? Yeah. And you could just talk to me some more.
I sat in the truck waiting for her, watching these other kids get off the buses, and when she didn't get off, I thought something really awful could have happened. I thought I'd wait a few more minutes, and this lady comes out and asks me if I was Amanda Shook's mother. Well, I instantly knew something wasn't right.
On the phone with 911, she's fine.
How did she get home?
I don't know.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. There was someone with you. Oh, I know it is. We'll get somebody to your house real fast. Oh, no. You don't have to be afraid to call. No, we'll help you. We're not going to arrest your mom.
She was afraid to call 911, and I think a lot of kids are. But if they really feel that they need help, we're there. If this is not a 911 situation, we'll have to tell them that. But we'll do our best.
I'm here. I called 911. Is that your dad? Hello? Hi. Is this Mrs. Shook? Oh, good. I'm glad you're there. I've been talking to your daughter. She was very scared. She's a very good girl.
I was so glad that she was okay, and Amanda just had this smile on her face that she was glad I was there, and that made me feel really good.
I was happy when my mommy got home, and I was very, very, very happy.
I think Amanda did a great job.
She had composure, even though she was obviously upset. I'm not saying that all situations like this should be called into 911, but at 5 years old, she was there alone, and she had no one else apparently to turn to. She trusted us enough to make that call.
We went to the carnival and
We had a lot of talks about what to do if something like this were to happen again.
We told her specifically that she wasn't to take a ride home from anybody and that she was to be on the bus on the regular routine every day.
Now she has phone numbers listed on the refrigerator to call her grandmother or even a neighbor. I don't think she'll have to use 911 again.
I never been home alone before. I never want to be home alone again.
I gained 53 pounds.
She say,
Or visit netspend.com/get all access. That's it.
I honestly thought he was dead.
what? An intruder threatens a mother and son.
My first thought was, he's gonna rape her.
On Rescue 911.
We begin in the Cascade Mountains in Washington on February 23rd, 1994, the day after a large storm swept through the area.
We had an incredible amount of snow, 65 inches in 24 hours, which is 3 inches taller than I am. There's a great deal of difficulty keeping the area open at all. A lot of the problem was avalanche danger. When you get that much snow, you lose people sometimes.
On that day, John Caples and his 19-year-old son Andy had come up to Crystal Mountain Ski Resort.
Andy had Friday off from classes, and he was just determined to come up and go snowboarding.
Better to study, and that's for sure.
Even though they only open up the areas that are safe, I really didn't want him alone.
Okay, let's go.
So I took the day off from work, and we headed up to the slopes. I'm very close with my son, so if Andy wanted to ski and to snowboard, that was my opportunity to have that kind of time with him. Andy is pretty aggressive all the time. He was on the edge of the run. As we were heading down, we were no more than 40, 50 yards apart. I saw him one moment, and in the next moment, Andy disappeared.
When we continue.
I didn't have much hope left. The feeling is, how am I going to go on with my life? This is my son and my best friend.
You see anything?
How do you bring fresh flavor to your favorite?
They're operating that. You don't have to.
The easy-to-use feed
Should consider.
John Caples had been snowboarding behind his son Andy. When he came around a corner, Andy was gone.
Andy?
I saw some trees moving, and the snow was still falling off of them.
Andy?
I knew that if he was all right, he would answer me. I got this awful feeling in the pit of my stomach that something was very wrong and that I needed to get help.
19-year-old Kim Hoffman happened to be skiing by.
My son snowboarded off the...
The man said he couldn't find his son.
Ski patrol.
Are you sure that anyone in here?
I figured that it would be really dangerous if he got caught back there because of the amount of power that we have had. He would be buried.
Want an EMT? Let me stay and help you.
So, since I'm an EMT and a firefighter, I told him that I would stay and help him.
Stop, stop. Can you go get ski patrol?
And I asked another passing by skier to go and get ski patrol.
Maybe down there where the snow is disturbed a little bit.
I was getting more and more afraid for Andy, and all I could think of was, we've got to find him soon.
Andy!
We were up in at least chest deep snow,
Andy!
trying to find a leg or an arm.
You see anything?
No!
It was really nerve-wracking. I remember thinking I didn't want to find someone dead that day.
Andy!
Come on, hold on. Andy!
Andy! I want to go up a little higher.
It seemed like we were getting nowhere fast. We were digging and digging and not finding anything, so I decided that we should go up and work our way down.
More than 15 minutes had passed.
I was just feeling around with my hands, and I hit something hard.
I found it!
The moment I saw his snowboard, I feared for the worst.
Oh, Dick, we gotta hurry.
I feared that Andy'd been under there so long that he wasn't going to make it.
Hang on, Andy! Let me get you!
We were more panicked now that we actually had found him and knew that he was in there.
How can he be alive after all this time?
It was like digging out a fossil, because we didn't know which direction he was facing. We just kind of had to follow his legs and his body to find his head.
Follow his legs!
Hold on.
Follow his legs!
It was so frustrating.
I see an arm.
Keep following it!
I was extremely tired. So much time had passed, and at that point, I didn't have much hope left.
Just keep digging off at his board off, okay?
The feeling is, how am I going to go on with my life? This is my son and my best friend.
Careful around his face.
But I figured he had been buried probably about 25 to 30 minutes by the time we got to him. With lack of oxygen, after 4 minutes, the brain starts to shut down.
Come on, Andy!
Deep in my heart, I honestly thought he was dead. I really did.
I love you, Andy.
Hang in there!
All of a sudden, I heard a noise. My heart started to leap, thinking, maybe he's okay, maybe he's still alive, and I dug even faster.
Come on, Andy.
He's still breathing.
And I could see that he was still just barely clinging to life, and I started talking to him. I said, I'm here, Andy. You're gonna be okay. Just hang in there a little bit longer.
Del Riplinger was the first member of the volunteer ski patrol to arrive.
He was as gray as you can imagine, but he was still breathing.
Ski patrol is a code 1 situation.
So I immediately called in with a code 1 on the radio.
Ski patrol paramedic Dick Tallman and EMT Emily Johnston got to the scene a few minutes later.
It is always kind of a shock, because you hope to look down and see someone who's pink and moving, and he was none of the above.
Emily, we need some oxygen. We need to get a heads up for the helicopter, all right?
We were concerned that when he was upside down in the snow, he had vomited into his lungs. That stomach contents, if aspirated into the lungs, will eat away at the lungs and ultimately will lead to death.
On axis now, all right?
All right.
All right.
You're concerned about spinal injury, head injury, but none of that really matters if he's not breathing.
Let's go again.
Okay, nice and easy.
As soon as we moved him onto the run, to our disbelief, he actually started talking to us.
Walking down to here.
He's definitely the bluest person I've ever seen talking in my life.
We're gonna get you out of here, almost out. Can you hear me?
If he had not been skiing with his father, no one would have known that he was gone. And he wouldn't have been found until sometime in the summertime when all of the snow had melted.
All right, here you go.
Andy was hospitalized for hypothermia and pneumonia, but has completely recovered from the incident.
I was really amazed by the battle that my dad waged to find me and dig me out.
And it's a great deal.
I felt a lot of love between us. And I was extremely happy that we were seeing each other again.
You often climb up the hill every time you wanted to get down.
19 years ago, I gave birth to Andrew, and his dad was an important part of that delivery. I kind of feel John gave Andrew a second birthing on the mountain that day. So Andy has two birth mothers, me and his dad.
Hi, Kim. Welcome.
I feel extremely grateful for an angel that appeared on the scene suddenly when I needed her. I think Kim is the real hero in this story. If I had gone in there on my own to try and find Andy, I would not have found him in time.
I just was glad that it was really rewarding because that was the first life I saved. And I was surprised to see how good he looked. He looked a lot better than the day that I saw him.
My dad is one of those great fathers who never missed a t-ball game or a football game. I think that his actions should just prove to everybody else what an incredible person he is.
Every moment I have with my son is bonus time. And I look at him and think, man, I'm glad you're here. I'm really glad you're here.
Next.
I heard the whole conversation, and the thing that sent chills down my spine was when he said, I'm here to solve your problems.
These are unprecedented times, which are causing a lot of stress and financial worry for millions of Americans. And being in debt.
Still.
He got arrested. Optim attacks.
Far as my
S deal pop.
Instead of just.
Well, now for your free. Crawled into bed and drifted off to sleep.
Towards putting your tax problems to rest, Optimus Tax Associates are standing by ready to assist you today. For a free consultation, call 800-924-8074.
Optima Tax Relief.
Monique Silva lived alone with her 8-year-old son in a one-bedroom apartment in San Jose, California. On the night of January 1st, 1993, when they crawled into bed and drifted off to sleep, they had no idea they were about to get the most terrifying visit of their lives.
Apparently the woman was asleep, single mother, rather a small child with her there. She had a revolver, but the revolver was inside a lockbox.
And the key was in the other room.
I got a gun!
Sunday emergency, what are you on? Yes, somebody's broken into my apartment, 428. Okay, calm down.
The San Jose police dispatcher handling the call was Barbara Liberty.
She sounded frantic. I was trying to get more information from her, and it was difficult because she was really scared.
Are they in the house now? Yes, 428. Okay, do you know who it is? No, I don't know. Okay, all right, come on.
Units from around the area were immediately dispatched to the scene, including Officer Kevin Cassidy.
You can get a little complacent about it. 'Cause, I mean, there was 50 times that they dispatch us to a call that's not really nothing calls, but going nowhere calls. But when they updated it that the guy was now inside the house and had broken down the front door, you start thinking, well, this isn't going to be the ordinary call.
He said his name is you don't know who he is?
No, I have no idea.
Okay, did you see him?
No, I'm in the room with my son. I don't want to have to use this.
Okay, where in the house are you now?
I'm in my bedroom.
Okay.
He can hear me. Please just send somebody here.
Okay, just stay on the line with me and don't hang up, okay? Okay, where is the bedroom located in the house?
In the house and to the left. Please, please.
You don't know where the suspect is. A lot of these times, these people don't want to look, and we don't blame them.
I don't want to have to use this gun. It's not a gun.
Okay, you have a gun with you
Yes, I
right now?
have a firearm. I have a 30.
Okay, is it loaded right now?
Yes, it's loaded.
Okay, what I need to have you do is I need to have you put the gun down, okay?
No.
Okay, now, okay. When the officers get on scene, you have to put the gun down because they may mistake you and they may end up shooting you, okay?
When she told me she had the gun, I told her that she had to put it down, and she said no. In her situation, I don't blame her, but I said, you know, someone's gonna get hurt here.
Is the bedroom door locked?
No, it's a door. I'm terrified. I'm afraid. I don't know what to do.
Okay, that's okay. What's your name?
He's in the closet. He said he has a friend with him. He can't leave his apartment now.
Okay, what's your name? Monique. Okay, Monique. My name is Barbara.
I kind of wanted to make me a little more personal for her, not just a voice on the phone. Kind of tell her, I'm here for you.
Okay, what did he say to you? Okay, now, okay, you need to put the gun down now. We have officers in the area, so I want you to put the gun down away from you. Okay?
I'm going to pop it with me.
Okay, please make sure that you put the gun down. We can't have that there.
Oh, God. Please.
Within 4 minutes, police got to the apartment complex, including Officer Brian Christian.
We realized that it's huge complex, kind of like a maze. So we asked the dispatcher if she could give us some kind of directions on how to get to the particular building.
Oh, my God.
What are you hearing right now? Okay, where in the complex is your apartment? If they were coming in the front gate, where do they need to go?
They need to turn. Oh, as soon as they get to the parking lot, turn right. Just follow the parking lot.
At the point when she starts describing the water fountain and then starts going right, left in a kind of babbling manner, my sense of urgency grows because I think she is really hysterical.
Okay, did you put the gun down?
Put the gun down. He said it's too late. I can't leave. I just went to too late. Send me over, buddy. Please.
Is there another subject there? Is that what you said?
No, he said it's Freddie. He said, what's your name? I said, who the is here? He said, my name is, this is Freddie. He goes, too bad we're stuck here. No, I said, I don't know you. Get the hell out of my house. I had one firearm, don't turn in this bedroom. Oh, please. Just take it. Oh,
Okay, we have officers in the...
She started screaming, but I could also hear her son screaming. And then the phone, those touch tones. And that's when I realized, oh my God, you know, he's found her.
We heard a bunch of screams coming, so we ran around to the correct apartment.
When I start hearing all the screams, just the adrenaline level goes shooting through the roof.
I heard the whole conversation, and the thing that sent chills down my spine was when he said, I'm here to solve your problems. My first thought was, he's gonna rape her. And then my second thought was, the gun's there, is he gonna kill her too?
So they came running around the building. At this point, I can hear someone screaming at the top of their lungs. The lady was running out of the condo. She was running a lot faster than I've ever seen anybody take stairs going down.
saw us and came to a screeching halt, told him to get his hands up, which he didn't do. Just didn't seem like he was really all together there with the rest of us.
They said he has Ruben. And I thought, how unfair, how dare you. I love my son more than anything in the world.
We figured the gun's inside the apartment. That's not something that we want, especially with the little boy that no telling what's going to happen to him.
The first officer who got in the apartment took the child away from the suspect. And the rest of us were pretty much tackling the guy, taking him to the ground, and taking care of business up there.
I think the worst part of this whole thing was being on the other side of the phone and not being able to do anything. When the whole thing was finally over, I cried. I was very sad for her and her son, but I was so happy that they got there in time.
After they apprehended him, they brought him down the stairs. And he looked at us. And to me, that meant, you know, you're gonna pay the price. I'm gonna come back to get you for putting me in jail.
The suspect was subsequently convicted of burglary and using a victim as a shield, and sentenced to 5 years in prison. 2 years later, Monique and her 10-year-old son Ruben continue to undergo counseling to help them come to terms with what happened that night.
It's hard. It changes your life. Because when you almost lose your life and think that you're gonna lose your child, it changes everything.
I remember I got so scared I started crying. I realized this ain't a dream, that's real life. But I'm feeling pretty good today.
Oh, Ruben!
Shortly after the incident, Monique turned her handgun over to the police.
It's kind of ironic because I always thought that owning a firearm was the ultimate protection, and ironically, I lived without it. I survived without it. You want the whole stack? I think that if you're in a situation and you need help, call 911. That's what they're there for. That was my lifeline. And the police, they were a godsend. The system works. Mommy loves you. Give me a kiss. Oh, get away. Oh. You're a good kid.
Today on Rescue 911. Running into trouble. A boy collapses while jogging in gym class.
He falls flat on his face.
He was unconscious. He was not responsive at all.
He just looked dead.
1, 2, 3.
Plus, a paragliding accident leaves a man clinging on for dear life.
There was a chance that he couldn't hang on any longer.
While the cliff crumbles beneath him.
I knew that it was going to be a dangerous call.
On Rescue 911.
For the survivors of a tragedy, healing is a difficult and painful process. But sometimes the bonds forged throughout the journey can reaffirm the goodness in life for all of us. I'm William Shatner. Tonight on Rescue 911, true stories that remind us a single person can touch the lives of many others in ways we never imagined. We begin on the morning of October 29th, 1992, at Nyack Middle School in Nyack, New York, as the students in Al Pesner's PE class headed out to the playing field for a game of flag football.
It was second period, 8th grade class. When we reached the upper field, I directed the students to take their warm-up lap.
13-year-old Andre Gilbert and Nick Graziano were jogging together that morning.
Andre and we were good friends. I was jogging right beside him. We were coming around a corner, and I asked him, I said, Andre, let's speed up, let's catch up to the rest of the class. He just said, no, I don't want to speed up. He looked tired. He had a red face, sort of, almost like he was blushing, but a lot more. What's wrong? He falls flat on his face.
Andre! It appeared that somebody had tripped him. He just went almost head first into the ground.
Andre, come on, give me a sign here, buddy, you all right? Andre! Andre.
He was unconscious. He was not responsive at all.
Roger, would you please go get the nurse and tell her to come up to the field right away, please? Thank you. Andre.
I really didn't think it was a serious condition at first because in my career as an instructor, I've dealt with numerous different levels of seizure, and this just seemed to be a seizure situation.
When you get the ball, the rest of you go ahead down. Be careful crossing, please. Andre.
And then all of a sudden, he stopped breathing.
Stop! Go down, tell the nurse we need an ambulance right away. Tell the office what's going on and get Mr. Bopper from my office. Go!
When he stopped breathing, my thoughts changed from a seizure to maybe an air blockage. A piece of candy that he might have had when he was doing his lap that somehow lodged into his throat.
Come on. Andre. Andre.
I thought I lost him. I thought I might not see him again. He just looked dead.
When we continue,
Panic started to set in. I'm not going to fool anybody. I was really scared. I'm looking at a 13-year-old boy, and he might not walk out of my class.
Today, option from Fingerhunt. Electric and gas company.
For wireless bras?
I tut 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 tut, which
Andre, come on. Wait.
when I blew air into Andre, he went right on up. So I knew right away there was no blockage. But the response I got was frightening because all I got was a tut 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 tut, which is the tongue flapping from the air coming back out. Panic started to set in. I'm not going to fool anybody. I was really scared. I'm looking at a 13-year-old boy, and he might not walk out of my class.
Andre.
So I decided I better check for a pulse. I couldn't find anything.
Andre.
Tried here.
Miss Richter, there's been an accident on the upper field.
He was just weakening, actually like melting. And you could just feel his body getting limper and limper.
Come on.
You've got a couple of minutes to to do whatever you have to do, and you better make the right decision, because this kid's dependent on you.
Hurry up, there's no pulse!
PE teacher Tony Boffa and another teacher came to see if they could help.
Oh, he went down like a ton of bricks. He's not breathing.
Can't find his pulse.
Let's go CPR, Tony.
You know what you got, right?
Al just kind of barked at me, Tony, do you know what to do? And I says, let's go with it.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Watch it.
Andre regurgitated, which is a good sign, which meant his body was responding, and he started to breathe. Tony secured a pulse, and what a relief. I still wasn't sure whether we had, how long we were gonna have him here. Because in CPR, we were taught that we could get him back for a while, and then they go right back out.
An ALS unit with Rockland Paramedic Services arrived, including paramedic Vincent Romano.
It took between 5 and 8 minutes for us to get there. That's long enough to cause irreversible brain damage.
Went down, and then he stopped breathing, and...
People were pretty excited and a little bit emotional.
No.
I would say it was about 20 seconds after oxygen that Andre opened his eyes and looked very startled.
All right, Andre, way to go, buddy.
It was great.
Keep going.
It's, if you have your own children, you'll be there for the birth. That's what it's like. It's just that wonderful.
He had a very erratic pulse. My partner and I hooked him up to an electrocardiogram and found that he had a fairly serious ventricular arrhythmia. It's an irregularity of the heartbeat to the point that it actually could cause unconsciousness or even death.
Andre Gilbert was diagnosed with a rare heart arrhythmia that can cause sudden death while exercising, for which he now takes medication. Andre is currently under the care of pediatric cardiologist Zvi Marans of Columbia Presbyterian Babies and Children's Hospital.
When he exercised that one time, his heart started to beat abnormally fast. So fast that the heart was not able to fill. Therefore, the heart was not able to pump the blood.
And Andre, you know what we're doing now? We're doing the echocardiogram.
This is considered to be a very, very serious problem for him. Therefore, he is not allowed to engage in any sports activities.
Or can you give me that all?
Andre's mother, Josette Gilbert, is trying to help her son adjust to the changes in his life.
He was very depressed at first. He's a kid that gets on his bike in the morning and doesn't get off of it until night. But I think now he's learned to adjust a little bit.
I can't ride my bike. I can't play basketball. I can't go to karate. And those are like the favorite things that I like to do. I want to do it, but it's like I try to listen to what the doctor says and I don't go doing what I want.
Not even a week after the incident happened, I think Andre was still in the hospital. I went up to thank Mr. Pesner and Mr. Boffa. It was very emotional. I really didn't know how to thank him.
Andre is important to me now. I feel that I'm a part of him and he's a part of me. It's a lesson that can happen to anybody at any time and to be prepared for it. To think that if I didn't know CPR, he wouldn't have made it. There's no question in my mind. He was fading fast. He's my assistant now. In our softball unit, he's our umpire. And I think it's important for Andre to realize that there are other aspects that he is capable of fulfilling in athletics, even with his limitations.
I'm really grateful for what Mr. Pesner did for me. We're like brothers. When I see Mr. Pesner, it's like, there goes the coolest guy I know.
Next.
He had not been obeying what we call the rules of the road. If you turn suddenly in front of somebody, it's the same as doing that on a freeway. You could have a collision.
These are unprecedented times, which are
Rod Van Bennett.
That I was going to worry about.
Awful attacks.
I only...
The deputy.
Optimus
Pines, California, have made it a world. The rising air currents along the 300-foot cliffs of Torrey Pines, California, have made it a world-famous destination for those who enjoy hang gliding and paragliding. Bill Bennett, operator of the local glider port, was responsible for making sure that despite the potential danger there, the skies remained a safe place for everyone. Most of the rescue footage in this story was taped as the events unfolded on June 29th, 1993.
It's like people want to go to Mecca. People want to come to Torrey Pines to fly. And here it's absolutely necessary to fly with the most advanced rating that you can have.
Licensed paraglider Erich Helwig had traveled more than 7,000 miles from his home in Germany with his wife, Etta Wolf, to practice the sport in new terrain.
I told him our usual practice was to see him go out and make a flight, whereupon I would assess if he had the required skill level. Just because a person has a driver's license doesn't mean he's going to get on the freeway and become the safest driver. His launching skills weren't exactly as I would like to have seen them to be. However, this is not uncommon with European pilots who have a different technique of launching than we do here on the coastal cliff, because they have nice, steep, grassy slopes along its front.
Erich Paragliding liebt.
Erich loves paragliding.
Aber mein Gefühl war schon,
But I had a weird feeling because
weil ich mir erst nicht
I could not imagine how it could work there.
probieren sollte.
When he did get into the air, he more or less took possession of the ridge and had not been obeying what we call the rules of the road. And that is to say, if you turn suddenly in front of somebody, it's the same as doing that on a freeway, and you could have a collision. Either he didn't understand the rules, he didn't want to obey the rules, or simply was didn't get the communication when he read the rules. When he came back from landing, I spoke to him and explained that he had a couple of problems. I told him he should go away and fly somewhere else until such time as his skills were consistent with that which was required at Torrey Pines.
On the beach below, Matt Brown had been spending the morning surfing.
I was watching some of the hang gliders and the parasailers going in and out of the cliffs. One in particular was getting really close to the cliffs and coming in and out of the spines. I couldn't really figure out what he was doing because I'd never seen anyone get that close. When I saw him hit, I thought, what? I was down there, oh my God, I'm like, what is this guy doing? And he just goes, bam, and he smashed it in. I freaked him out, what do I do? You know, and like, just like stunned.
A sunbather flagged down lifeguard Chappie Michael.
100 yards back, thank you.
I pictured in my mind what these cliffs were like that he was telling me. They're sheer, unstable cliffs, and I figure no one can be stuck up there because they're so steep, you know, so sheer.
San Diego City lifeguards, who were specially trained in cliff rescue, were called in, led by Sergeant Margaret Rigby.
Because the cliffs are so unstable in this area,
I knew that it was going to be a dangerous call.
He was barely holding on. My main concern was the cliffs actually crumbling from underneath him.
Upon finding out that it was the German pilot who had in fact got into trouble, it occurred to me that he hadn't totally understood what I was trying to tell him. I need you to come over here, please.
Bill went to tell Anna what had happened.
What? Im Moment, wo ich das
The moment I heard that,
es war wie eine große
it was as if a big bracket had been placed around my heart. And I thought that that's not possible.
When I first saw him, I thought that he was going to fall before we got to him. The victim was about 150 feet below the top of the cliff. So we were worried that a helicopter, any kind of disturbance, could have made the cliff fall on our victim.
Because the victim was not visible from directly above, Lieutenant Ken Hewitt went to a high point up the beach from where he could help guide the rescuers.
I could tell by his mannerisms that he was getting tired. There was a chance that he couldn't hang on any longer. And my immediate fear was we would get within arm's reach and the cliffside would fall away and this individual would be lost over the side.
Im Moment muss ich ganz
At that moment, I have to honestly say I thought he would never be rescued. My first thought was, now you have to fly home alone.
Yeah, you're in, you're secure.
Lifeguard Dave Calder strapped on a rescue harness while the others readied the lines as quickly as possible. Erich had already been holding onto the cliff for more than 45 minutes.
Kelly, is that good? You work with such an adrenaline rush that you don't realize how unsafe the area was. But we were concerned that we might cause an avalanche or that the cliff was going to fall before Dave got to the victim. 31 Sam. I had radio contact with Lieutenant Hewitt, and I had to rely on him to tell the rescuers at the top of the cliff what was going on.
We have him move a little bit south. As he's descending, he's dropping debris on top of the victim.
I was thinking, how much longer can this guy hold on? At any moment, he could just lose his grip and he would be gone, fall to his death. When Dave got to the victim and he was connected to the safety harness, we were a little bit at ease, but we still realized that that was only half the rescue. We still needed to get to the bottom of the cliff. It was a very intense moment. We couldn't see what was going on below the cliff, but we felt tugs on the line and we weren't sure what was going on.
As I lost sight of them over the cliffside as they descended to the beach, our land unit that was on the beach radioed to me saying that they were safely down.
It was such a rewarding feeling that it was a successful rescue and we had all worked together as a team. All the experience and training had paid off.
At the end, when I was hanging there when I realized that I was losing my strength, I didn't have any hope anymore that anything would happen. I thought, it's over.
Thank you. No problem. Good job.
It is really hard to believe what kind of a feeling it can be to stand with both feet on the ground again.
For lifeguard Dave Culver, it was a rescue he'll never forget.
I was wondering how he could hold on for so long. He had been holding on to the cliff for probably about an hour and 20 minutes. I thought it could be any time where he couldn't hold on any longer, or the cliff would give way and he would fall. It was the most difficult rescue I've ever been a part of. I think the best advice I can give to anybody that's interested in hang gliding or paragliding is, number one, maybe think about not doing it. And number two, definitely go through all the required training so you could avoid any possible problems or an accident.
Back home in Düsseldorf, Germany, Erich and Edda have a lot to be thankful for.
Die solche Menschen, oder wie gesagt, das Leben anderer Menschen retten.
Those people who rescue others and risk their own lives during such operations.
Also ich finde sie.
I can't even express it. These people are fantastic.
Dank an die Leute von
I have to thank the people from the lifeguard, and I would like to do that. I am deeply grateful to these people. Therefore, I would like to say a very special thank you to the people from the lifeguard.
Wenn Erich wirklich gestorben
If Erich had really died, if Erich hadn't made it down again alive, I really would have missed everything about him.
Ich glaube schon,
I believe that Erich is very lucky
den hat mich ja.
because he has me.
When you know what to do when disaster strikes, first responders break down real emergencies. It's the one show you can't. When disaster strikes, first responders break down real emergencies. It's the one show you can't afford to miss. Rescue 911. Next on True Crime Network.
Step out of the car, please.
First responders jump into action. Rescue 911 next.
This is 911. Do you have an emergency?
Today on Rescue 911, a dangerous drive, a country joyride.
Once you start sliding on gravel, that's it.
Leaves a girl pinned beneath a wreck.
They had her seatbelts on,
could have been a completely different story.
Plus,
A lot of stress associated with the job.
an air traffic controller collapses with planes in midair,
His heart was stopped.
leaving thousands of lives in jeopardy on Rescue 911.
On August 6, 1993, when 12-year-old Holly Volbrock came over to 14-year-old Ann Stedham's house, they had planned nothing more ambitious than hanging out together. The girls often spent time with one another, so Ann's mother Sharon thought she had no reason to be concerned.
Annie and Holly are good friends. They like to do a lot of things together. This particular day, they got it in their head that they were just going to take the old car parked out by the barn to return some clothes that belonged to a neighbor. And I said, no, Ann, I'd rather you didn't.
I wish it was less go.
My mom, her no's are usually like, no, you cannot do this. But that day she was kind of lenient about it. She said, no, but it's your responsibility.
So, her taking the boys, just get in.
Anne would not be old enough to get a license to drive legally on the roads for 2 more years.
We just drove around for a little while. Hollywood asked to drive, and so we switched back and forth. Since we had driven before on the farm, we didn't think it was any big deal.
John Volbrock is a reserve officer with the local police department and 12-year-old Holly's father.
It's legal for them to drive them in the pastures, but they're not supposed to get them out on public roadways. Unfortunately, you get two kids together, and sometimes it's what one doesn't think of, the other one will. And once you start sliding on gravel, that's it.
When we get to her house, she's gonna scream. And then we go pick any branches and air up the road. Oh my gosh! What are you doing? It's hard.
When we continue,
You could just see the car clear over the ditch upside down. The top was all smashed in. And I thought there's no way that girl could live. I figured it just crushed her.
Sorry, I the bank took forever. I put on.
If you've been ripped off, where do you turn? The police is the first place, but there are many others. The National Fraud Information Center can be reached on our national hotline at 1-800-876-7060. If you were scammed online, the Internet Crime Complaint Center is another place to turn. You should also report the misdeed to the FTC Bureau of Consumer Protection. The key to resolving the situation is to make the call when viable. Be aware and be safe.
I remember waking up, not really knowing what had happened. And I just started yelling Holly's name. She couldn't answer me.
Holly? Holly?
I was afraid to see what had happened. So I squeezed out the back window. I just took off running. I thought she was dying. I thought she was dead already.
Charlene Addison lived in the next farmhouse down the road from the accident.
I heard somebody holler. The Stedham girl was in my front yard, covered with blood. You could just see the car clear over in the ditch, upside down. The top was all mashed in. And I thought, there's no way that girl could live. I figured it just crushed her.
Within minutes, Chillicothe Fire Rescue arrived at the scene, including paramedic Jim Saylor.
My partner got out, and I took the ambulance on down.
You okay?
There was a lady with the patient down in the ditch. You couldn't see the face, you just could see the back of the head.
Okay, hi, my name's Holly Bobrock.
The lady said this is Holly Bobrock, which was kind of a shock at first. I knew Holly.
Hi, Jim.
I worked with her dad for several years.
You okay? Where you hurt?
Her right arm was trapped up under the car. So I reached in under to feel what kind of problem there was, and you could tell there was massive damage. At that time, I didn't know whether the arm was actually still attached or not.
Holly's father, John, and her mother, Teresa Calvert, went to Hedrick Medical Center when they were notified there had been an accident.
We kind of started hearing these reports that, you know, things didn't sound so good.
When they did give her name, I looked over at Amy and Teresa, and they were both panic stricken, and just, it was just like the whole world just stopped.
We needed to lift the car far enough where we could get the arm out. Holly was scared, she was hurting. There wasn't a lot of bleeding because the weight of the car put pressure onto the wound. But we didn't know, exactly what was going to happen when we lifted the car off. Okay, good. There was massive damage to the shoulder area. Part of the bone where it fractured was sticking out. You could see the ball in the socket.
May hurt a little.
We kept telling her not to look at it. Don't look at the arm.
All right, you can call on. Get that arm.
I didn't think there was any way that they would be able to save that arm at all.
Anne had suffered only a slight concussion as a result of the accident.
You could hear her talking back and forth on the radios, saying everything that was wrong with her. They were telling me to quit crying.
What happened?
But I couldn't to the radios. They're saying that it was worse than they thought. And now I'm the one responsible for it.
It was kind of sad because if they'd had her seatbelts on, it could have been a complete different story. Holly may not have been injured at all.
What happened?
The attending emergency physician, Cal Greenlaw, happened to be Holly's doctor and a close friend of the family.
When they brought Holly in, it was really difficult. The emotions that you have that you just don't dare let loose is tremendous.
Down here right away. By the look on the doctors' faces and the nurses' faces, of course, it's being a small town, we know them all, and you could just tell that it wasn't very good.
You okay?
I finally got to go in and see her. This seemed like forever. And Holly's such a neat kid. The first words out of her mouth was, "Mom, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry."
Holly was taken by Research Eagle helicopter to Lutheran Medical Center, more than 200 miles away, where a team of microvascular surgeons, led by Dr. Jay Goldberg, would try to save her arm.
That's some irrigation, please. Her skin had been torn off from about this level on the arm. All of the muscle on the top of the arm was exposed. The nerves weren't severed. So there was a chance that some of her function would come back. But at the same time, there was a good chance that even if I could reestablish blood flow into her arm, that it may still not work, and that she still may lose the arm.
Over the next 2 months, Holly underwent a series of operations to try to repair her damaged right arm.
She made remarkable progress in the hospital. I believe it was a week after her first 2 surgeries that she put a pen in her hand and she wrote, "Hi, Mom." And it was so cool. We were so excited.
Top mark today.
And from then on, it just seemed like she could do a little bit more as each day went by.
Keep going.
9 months after the accident, Holly continues to undergo physical therapy.
She is doing great. She has full feeling in her arm and her hand, and she can move it, full movement. The only thing she can't do is she can't get her arm completely straightened out.
Allies, better step on me, Holly. It was a hard recovery for Holly. She's probably one of the biggest people I've ever seen. There are times when the therapy was really frustrating. There was quite a bit of pain. When I look back to it, we got in the car, I just think to myself, why didn't we just stay home? Holly's back to her normal self again. Go crazy. She tries to be cheerful if you're down, and she always cheers you up. She's like the best friend in the world. Look at you. I think we've become better friends over this. We always like open up to each other and tell each other everything. And it feels bad. Like it's all her fault. I think it was just an accident. But I wouldn't get myself in that situation again.
I woke up in the middle of the night sometimes in a cold sweat thinking of what if. I don't know if I could have made it. I just can't imagine life without her. She's a great kid.
Next.
Jimmy is definitely in distress, but we can't stop what we're doing. There's too many people up there.
I'd rather reduce their speed to 1 meter, Cheryl.
Noticing signs of unwanted hair loss? You could take your chances with options that are simply trendy, or trust Bosley RX, proven FDA-approved prescription-based treatments brought to you by America's expert with over 45 years experience. Bosley RX will help stop your
Weight gainer.
value.
Shopping within perfect.
The controllers that night was Ed Gass. At around 8 p.m. on May 5th, 1993, the skies above Seattle, Washington were filled with aircraft, approaching and departing from SeaTac International Airport. In charge of the air traffic controllers that night was Ed Gass. Ed was about to face a deadly situation that he had never before encountered in nearly 30 years in control towers.
3503 Forward Seattle, Roger, turn left 5360, vectors Island, runway 13 right, bound up there, square 6.
Aircraft are coming at the radar controllers from virtually all points of the compass. Their job is to position the aircraft so that ultimately the airplanes end up one behind the other in an orderly fashion and land one at a time. They depend on us to provide safe instructions. There's a lot of stress associated with the job.
Dick Bob was the traffic management specialist on duty that night.
I was roaming the room, constantly checking the controllers and making sure that they didn't need help and the traffic was manageable.
Jim Knox was controlling all aircraft approaching from the west.
I commented to Jimmy about it wouldn't be too many more days and he wouldn't have to do it anymore because his retirement was pending.
Yeah, that's a day, right?
Here we go.
Remember 312.
Jimmy's like a brother to me. We've known each other a long time, 18 years. We work together, and our kids grew up together, and we're damn good friends. I basically was wandering around the room and noticed that Jimmy had his head down on the console. Traffic that slow, Jimmy? I suppose what I really wanted to believe is that Jimmy was playing a practical joke on me, pretending to be asleep. Jimmy. There's absolutely no response.
The other approach controllers on duty that shift were Mike Callahan and Sue Hoover.
Jimmy is definitely in distress, but we can't stop what we're doing. There's too many people up there.
Mike, pull in Jimmy's frequency and sort out his traffic. I'm not sure what he has.
At that point, I realized what my job was, make sure that the airplanes don't run into each other.
Get call 911. I think Jimmy's had a heart attack.
I do, but it's been a while.
She plugged into my spot and took my traffic over immediately.
Okay, try to get some air in him. I'm not sure if he's got a pulse or not.
I was nervous because I'm not sure if I remember the numbers right, how many breaths, how many compressions, what do I do first? So I gave him a couple breaths. And I was checking for a pulse at this point. Didn't find anything. It just sunk in more that really what was going on here. His heart was stopped.
I can't feel anything. I was concerned because Jimmy's life literally was in the hands of a couple of amateurs. We hoped we were doing the right thing. We had no assurance whatsoever that we were.
Within minutes of the call, a SeaTac airport rescue team arrived, including EMT Michael Mandela.
The entire fourth floor is FAA controlled. No one has access, not even the fire department. It just so happened that a port police officer heard the tones and called the elevator first. When the fire department gets on scene, we have no qualms about letting anybody know that we're in charge and that they need to get out of our way to do what we need to do. In this case, that wasn't the case at all.
Our radar scopes are meant to be observed in the dark, so consequently, you turn the lights on and it kind of bleaches everything out. So that didn't last long, of course.
Now it's becoming more and more clear to us we're going to have to do something a little bit differently here. For all intents and purposes, this patient was dead, but bottom line is there's thousands of people in the aircraft, and the priority is the safety of the 1,000.
I was hoping they'd defibrillate him one time and they'd have a heartbeat, but it didn't work. They did it once, again, didn't work. So at that point, I think I couldn't watch anymore.
Continue respiration.
Little more than 10 minutes after Jim's heart attack, a King County Advanced Life Support Unit arrived at the scene, led by paramedic Steve Marth.
Okay, guys, what do we got going on right here? The people that we meet when we walk in the door are asking us if we could move the patient out of the room. And my response, I told them, was, right now our patient's straddling the fence, and until he puts a foot down on one side or the other, we're gonna have to work on him right here. I started an IV and started pushing some lidocaine so it wouldn't refibrillate on us.
Dylan, yeah, I'm clear, you're clear, everybody's clear. Okay, recharging.
Patient converted.
Go ahead, check for a pulse.
We had to shock him a couple more times ourselves to get him into a heart rhythm that would sustain a pulse and a blood pressure on his own.
The scariest thing was watching him roll him out of there and wondering if I'd ever see him again. If I'd ever have the Jimmy that I knew.
The 55-year-old Jim Knox was taken to Highline Community Hospital, where his wife Jane joined Dick as soon as she heard what had happened.
She said, "How's Jimmy?" I says, "I just saw him in the emergency room. He's unconscious, and doctors think he had a heart attack." And she broke down, and I gave her a hug, and we cried together.
You'll be okay.
I was terrified. Here's a man who's the strength of the family we all look up to, and it was just terrifying to see him down like that.
He can hear you.
It's gonna be all right. It's gonna be all right. If I lost him, it would have been.
Judge for his heart function.
He was put under the care of cardiologist Curtis Burnett.
Or in this case, we basically are in a supporting function. The work to save his life happened out in the field, and that we're there to get on with doing what we can to prevent it from recurring.
Jim subsequently had a device implanted that automatically delivers an electrical shock to his heart anytime it stops beating. 5 months later, he is enjoying the retirement he had been looking forward to.
Right now, I feel great. I don't feel any different now than I did before the incident occurred.
He's doing very good. He just probably can't climb any mountains or jump out of airplanes or anything like that. We were very fortunate.
The survival rate for cardiac arrest in Seattle is more than 5 times the national average, perhaps because all of their firefighters are also trained as EMTs, and a very high percentage of the population has taken CPR courses.
According to the doctors, if he had not had the immediate CPR, he would have either been dead or brain damaged. Period.
I'd like to say to those people that were directly involved in keeping me alive that I can't thank you enough.
Come on. Somebody run. Run.
We've become almost inseparable. We simply just enjoy each other's company.
Go.
And he's my life.
Run.
Which of these meals?
Here's to the bad to fair credit scores, and those bills were just...
Okay, I'm gonna do one more episode, and then there's gonna be a intermission for Rescue 911 live stream, and I will spend a couple hours, charging my phone, because, I use my Android phone to stream Rescue 911 live.
a little bit later. At Good to Go, we see you. We know you have the drive. You just can't.
GetTopic.com.
This is 911. Do you have an emergency?
Today on Rescue 911, they were home alone. Rescuers raced to save 2 girls held hostage in their own home. Learn what you can do to protect your child at home.
Is he there to steal jewelry? Is he there to rape someone?
Then, a firefighter suffers a heart attack on the job.
All of a sudden, I saw Gil's body tighten up.
Rescuers fight to keep their...
I think I'm gonna go to YouTube and like this video, because I like to like my own videos, and I like it when other people give my videos a thumbs up too. Let's see. Go to YouTube. See, it's live. Okay, click on more. Click on thumbs up. If you go down, but I like this video. Now I'm gonna, go back to Streamium app because, I started another episode, Let's see. There. Get Streamium on my Fire Stick.
school's decision to fire Clay Helton on Monday, it's
This is on ESPN, let's see, Sports Center. Okay, let's see. DVR. Okay, go to business suit intruder. Okay. Resume. It always does that to me where I gotta go back and do it again. Resume.
Their friend alive on Rescue 911.
For years, the Rose family had felt safe in their home in the small town of Lexington, North Carolina. But all that changed on the morning of December 22nd, 1992, when 13-year-old Crystal and her younger sister Randy were alone in the house.
We feel like Crystal was capable, but she is a mature 13-year-old. To stay at home the day before, a stranger came to the door. They did not know who this person was. She immediately called 911, but they didn't find anyone. If we had any inkling that someone would come back the second time, we would never have left him here.
Who is that? I don't know. You recognize it? No.
The house sits 300 to 400 yards off the road. There's only a small opening in the trees to the highway.
Get in the room and don't make any noise.
Apparently it was a building of their suspicion. Something told them it wasn't right. Seeing a car they didn't recognize. Seeing a person they didn't recognize. And then you put on gloves.
Madison County 911 Sheriff Fire Medical.
Can you send the sheriff to my house, please?
What's the problem?
We got somebody at my door.
Okay, is this where we were at yesterday?
Yeah.
Davidson County Dispatcher Steve Lee took the call.
Yesterday didn't turn out to be anything, and my first thought was, well, it's going to be the same thing.
Is it the same person?
But you have to treat everything like it's real.
Okay, are you there by yourself?
When we continue,
I've heard people being beat up on telephone. I've heard people having heart attacks on telephone. But just to lose them completely was scary.
Rick is really
into all in 24.
seeing next. Now, it's word for
We call it tag team dispatching. I know Sandy's getting help going. I can concentrate talking with the caller.
Okay, you still at the door now?
Yes, he keeps knocking.
Okay, what type of car is he in?
I can't get on here right now. Can you hurry, please?
Okay, right there. Stay on line with me. Can you tell what type of car he's in or anything?
No,
Can you tell me what he looks like?
he's got brown on hair.
Brown?
He's a white person.
My closest car was down south, was nowhere close to the area. But I had a civil unit close to the residence.
503 Lexington, we need immediate receptive, we will respond.
4 deputies with the Sheriff's Department, including Major Marshall Nance, happened to be in the area.
When you start off with a 1060, that's just a plain suspicious vehicle. We have them all the time. But as we got near the scene, the situation changed dramatically.
Randy Rose, resident members to a 1060, subject at the door at this time.
Okay, what color's your house?
My house is cream color, sir.
Okay.
He's not the real name.
Okay, okay, I've got somebody there real close. Stay on line with me, they're coming.
Are you sure?
Yes, ma'am, sure, they're coming. Okay, stay on line with me.
I'm scared.
I know, it's all right.
Captain Danny Brown was one of the 4 civil officers in the car.
If he broke in on them children, they would have recognized him, they could have picked him out from a lineup. I do not think that he would have took what he could and left them to tell the tale.
Before dialing 911, Crystal had called her mother at work.
I kept thinking about the day the girls were born. The first time I ever saw my little girls. And then I started crying, and I couldn't see for the tears.
Okay, are there any cars in your driveway?
No.
Okay.
He keeps knocking.
Okay, it's all right.
Can you tell him to hurry up?
Ma'am, they're on the way.
Are you sure?
Ma'am, I'm sure. Okay, I got one right there at 85 right now.
He knocked the door down.
He's knocked the door down.
109, 105, 10, 12, 503, subject has made entry at this time. Yes, sir.
Stay on line with me, okay?
He's in here.
Okay, stay on line with me. You got a beige house, right? Okay, what's going on now? Is he in the bedroom with you?
I've heard people being beat up on the telephone. I've heard people having heart attacks on the telephone. But just to lose them completely was scary.
He was responding to a false contact subject route. Subject had gained entry into the house.
I didn't know if he was in the room with them, had he took them hostage, or had he hurt them before we got there.
I just saw a figure of someone in the doorway for just a brief second, then they dug back into the house.
You don't know what's going through the mind of the individual doing the break-in. Is he there to steal jewelry? Is he there to rape someone? Is he there to murder someone?
Sheriff Department, have your hands up. Sheriff Department. Sheriff Department. Where is he?
He's downstairs. It just got my daddy's gun.
You drove by it?
Yeah.
No, stay up here, stay up here.
Sergeant Danny Smith headed around the back.
Hold it. Turn around, face the wall. Put your hand up on the wall.
At that particular moment, it kind of shocked me to see someone with a suit coming out. He said he was a salesman, but I don't know what he was selling.
Apparently he's a career criminal. He had got out of prison in May.
Detective Jody Schoaf was the investigating officer.
Had it not been for the quick response of the girls using the phone and calling for help and the deputies being close by, could have had 2 victims instead of 2 heroes.
When our eyes met, Crystal came running to me. She says, Mama, she says, he put a gun to my head. And I fell apart. I completely fell apart.
The suspect subsequently pleaded guilty to 3 felony counts and was sentenced to 32 years in prison. 6 months have passed, but the painful memories of that day still linger.
And they're braver then than they are now. I mean, well, it gets dark, they won't go outside. They won't even go down the basement unless one goes, there's gotta be two of them. I don't believe they'll ever get over all of them, remember. I hope they get when they sleep real bit.
Whoa, here. Later on, she says, Mom, I was shaking so bad, I couldn't get to the gun. I said, Crystal, don't worry about it. You done the right thing. You done the right thing. I'm glad she didn't load the gun, because he could have taken it from her. He could have used it on her.
It's changed my view of people having their guns on display. These crimes move at a rapid pace. The military and the police, the ones I'm aware of, that are trained to handle a firearm in a defensive manner under those stressful conditions. It's a lot different than shooting skeet.
I was scared when he had the gun in my head because I really wasn't sure if it was loaded or not.
I think she's smart for what she did. I was scared. I thought he was going to take us with him.
Me and my sisters don't fight as much. This brought us a lot closer. But she helped out too, because she listened.
And the kids did great. They stayed on the line with us. I mean, she was nervous, and that's to be expected, but she stayed calm with Steve, more so than I think a lot of kids would have done.
Every child is a gift from God. They are my precious gifts, and always will be.
Next.
We were all a little bit scared because here's a man that we were.
Instantly, with including our hair.
About the cable companies. They charge monthly subscriptions, fees, rentals, and force you to take long-term contracts. Well, villains, robbers, bandits, crooks, they're all over your TV screen. But the biggest thieves are behind your screen. I'm talking about the cable companies. They charge monthly subscriptions, fees, rentals, and force you to take long-term contracts. Well, it's time to say goodbye to the cable guy, because now you can watch 4K Ultra HD broadcast TV for free. Introducing Clear TV's new 4K Ultra HD design, the Premium HD. Just plug it into your TV and start watching for free. You will instantly receive top-rated network shows, local news and weather, sporting events, and even Ultra HD 4K broadcast shows, all for free. Thanks to federal government mandate, all broadcasters are required to transmit a digital TV signal through the airwaves. The new Premium Clear TV lets you bypass cable or satellite to bring network and 4K broadcast shows directly to your television. Retract the antenna to keep it small or extend them for maximum reception.
Setup was so easy. I took my Clear TV antenna, plugged it into the back of the TV, and now I can watch my favorite broadcast channels anywhere in the house for free.
We're just off the coast here in the Gulf of Mexico receiving free network broadcast HD TV. Imagine all the free shows you'll receive at home. Basic cable and satellite services can cost you up to $80 a month. That's $960 a year and almost $10,000 over a 10-year period. Watch TV in as many rooms as you like with no additional monthly fees. Stop spending money you don't have to spend. Call or go online now and get your premium Clear TV 4K Ultra HD antenna for only $19.95. It's backed by our 60-day money-back guarantee. Order now and you can add a second Clear TV free. Just pay separate processing and handling. That's a $40 value for only $19.95.
I can't believe I get all these channels for free. Plus 4K Ultra HD, Clear TV is for real.
Coming up next on True Crime Network.
Firefighters share a special bond that comes with trusting one another with their lives as they face danger together. For one group of firefighters from Kilgore, Texas, that trust was put to the ultimate test on the afternoon of July 26, 1991.
You have one emergency? We got a fire over here in the Super Saver in Kilgore.
There a fire?
Yeah, in the store. $100 unit, $200 unit. If you have a report of a fire, would be a super flavor inside the...
Kilgore Fire Department units responded from 2 different stations, including EMT firefighter Daddy Eason.
We as firemen are just like family. Whenever you're at the fire station, you're with those people for 24 hours. You're never apart. We probably spend more time together than we spend with our wife and kids. We rolled into the front, our 2 engine was already there with Captain Messer. From what I understand, somebody told him that there were 2 employees in the building, and so his concern was getting those people out of the building.
Captain Gil Messer rushed in without putting on his air mask.
Captain Eastman asked me to go on in and check on Gil, because we don't just go one person inside a burning structure.
Firefighter Tony Smith joined Gil Messer in trying to put out the blaze.
With the stuff that we had in the stove, like the chlorine bleach, we're looking at a pretty dangerous situation because you get poison fumes off the bleach.
But there's pretty heavy smoke. It's real white smoke. It's totally different from anything that I've ever seen.
The fire was extinguished within 30 minutes.
We were all standing around talking, and Gil made the comment to me that he felt like he had gotten a little bit too hot. He didn't look good. He looked kind of pale, and it had a little bit of a gray tone to his skin.
Paramedic Dave Taylor was doing routine checks of all the firefighters.
The only fireman that didn't feel well and didn't look good was Gil Messer. He mentioned that he was just really tired. And he said, cigarettes are going to kill me. They keep robbing me of my breath.
All of a sudden, I saw Gil's body tighten up, and Tony reached out and grabbed him. I ran over and immediately started checking for carotid pulse. And I could get a lot of pulse at that time. It was real faint.
Somebody give me a big thing, get that back part in here.
We're all a little bit scared. Here's a man that we work with. One minute we're talking to him, and the next minute he's laying on the ground.
I couldn't get any reading on the blood pressure cuff. So I went in and checked his carotid pulse again and couldn't get a pulse.
Let's go, we need to go.
I thought that maybe it was chlorine bleach, that maybe he had gotten some smoke and it had caused him to have a seizure and caused his heart to stop. Just as soon as we got him in the ambulance, I started chest compressions on Gil.
Run, call the hospital, tell them go ahead and call Code Blue.
I've done CPR several times, but I've never had to do it on one of my fellow firemen.
Gil's condition continued to grow worse. He did not revive in the ambulance, and driving in, I thought I was going to see my first firefighter die in the line of duty.
Within 5 minutes, Gil Messer arrived at Roy H. Laird Hospital, where a medical team was standing by to treat him.
One, two, three, go!
Whenever we got to the emergency room, I started having my first doubts. He just had that look that whenever somebody looks that way, most of the time, that you're not going to be able to get them back.
Dr. Tom Beats was on his rounds when he heard the commotion in the emergency room.
What's the history? As I walked in, I saw that the patient was in ventricular fibrillation. Pull it back. Okay.
Come on, get everybody get back.
Clear.
Clear. Come on, Daniel.
What we got?
He didn't respond. He stayed in ventricular fibrillation. And there's just a feeling of despair. We're doing the things we should be doing, and he's not coming back.
Chief Ronnie Moore was one of Gil's many friends who rushed to the hospital to see if he could help.
I decided that I needed to notify some of his family, and Gil's brother is a fireman, and instead of calling his wife, I decided to call Bruce.
How bad is it? At that point, I told him, cut the book, reading between the lines, tell me what exactly happened. And all they said was, he's not going to make it.
You want to increase from 300? That's like clear. Clear.
Dr. Bates defibrillated Gil, and we got a heartbeat back.
Come on, Gil.
And then the heartbeat just started getting slower and slower and fading off.
2 milligrams a minute IV. You go on, begin chest compressions.
At that point, I started thinking we weren't gonna be able to get him back.
Come on, man. Do you need a break?
But nobody was ready to give up on Gil.
Come on, Danny.
Danny had been doing chest compressions on his friend for more than 30 minutes. When he became exhausted, he finally let Dave take over.
How much time has it been?
About 30 minutes.
He's back in V-fib again. Let me go ahead and try it one more time. Clear?
Come on, Gil.
Hold off on chest compressions.
Come on, Gil. Come on, go through it, man. Come on, man.
Hold it, he's up. No pulse.
Come on, Gil.
Okay, he's got a pulse.
Come on,
He's
Bubba.
got a pulse. After a few seconds, he came back.
Come on, Gil. Hang in there.
Pressure
70 is strong.
Over the next minute, he developed a regular rhythm, just like you and I have. He's got a good pulse. Go ahead and touch him now.
Even though we had a heartbeat, he still looked dead. But all of a sudden, his eyes went forward. He looked up at me. I said, Gil, can you hear me? He nodded his head, yes.
Oh, man. Not green.
I honestly believe that day I saw the light come back into Gil Messer. I talked to him for a few more minutes. I felt like I had to leave running. I didn't want to leave Gil, but I felt like I was fixing to break down. I didn't want him to see it.
Okay, here we go. Take him out, that person was spinning around that big person.
I think it was a team effort that saved him when his heart stopped. The only better place to have a cardiac arrest would probably be in the emergency room.
Gil was taken by air ambulance 30 miles to the cardiac care unit of Mother Frances Hospital, where he underwent a battery of tests. His wife, Mary Lee, and brother drove to the second hospital, where they finally got a chance to see him.
I took his hand and brushed his hair back. A tear rolled down his cheek. He said, I love you. He looked wonderful. It was so good to see him lying there.
2 months after his heart attack, Gil Messer returned to work alongside his friends and co-workers at the Kilgore Fire Department.
The firefighters, through the grace of God, saved my life. Maybe the reason I'm still around is to tell firefighters they need to try to stay more physically fit and eat better foods. Because if it can happen to me at 40 years old, it can happen to anybody.
Gil underwent successful angioplasty to open up a blocked artery. He's grateful to all the people who helped save his life that day, and especially to Danny.
Danny and I were good friends before, but I feel like all this has brought us a lot closer together. I feel like there won't be any way that I'll ever be able to repay him for what he did.
Me and Gil have a friendship now that can't anybody ever take away from it. Because there's not that many times that you can get somebody back and alive, especially as long as we had to work on Gil.
He has been through all the rehab, and he's been a wonderful patient on his diet. Erin has always given Gil a real hard time about being a smoker. She's learned this in school, that smoking is bad for you.
I don't smoke anymore, and I feel real good. I want to see Erin grow up and graduate, get married, have children of her own. That's why I wanted to live.
When you know what to do when disaster strikes, first responders break down real emergencies. It's the one show you can't afford to miss.
Thanks for using Locast.org, the nonprofit that makes local, over-the-air broadcast available to everyone. Just $5 each month covers the cost of delivering your
I'm gonna end this live stream now. Thanks for watching. I'm gonna take a break and charge my phone. Thanks for the other 2 people who gave this video a thumbs up. I wasn't the only one.